Hey guys, Script here with another video, and I guess was out of the loop here about some of this stuff with Leslie Headland. Elon Musk reacts to Leslie Headland describing the Acolyte as a lesbian fan fiction with a Star Wars veneer. Okay, so I've said this multiple times with Disney shows. Like, for example, I know a lot of people really like Andor. My take on Andor was that Andor was, or is, a generic show, a generic drama with a Star Wars skin on it. And I have felt this way with basically the Star Wars shows in general. It feels like they're doing this with all the shows. So take out the whole lesbian aspect of it, but it's well, I guess you can't. A lesbian fan fiction with a Star Wars veneer. And that's kind of what they've been doing. They've been writing these stories that aren't Star Wars at all. They're something else entirely, and then they're slapping a Star Wars skin on them. And if that's actually what she said, that's just confirming what I've been saying for the last few years. And you guys can go back and watch my reviews of those shows, and that's what I've been saying the entire time, is that none of this is Star Wars. It's just generic, whatever they feel like writing, and then slapping a Star Wars skin on it. So Elon Musk, the owner of X, as well as Tesla SpaceX, reacted to resurfaced comments from the Acolyte showrunner Leslie Headland describing the series as her lesbian fan fiction? What? And again, I go back to this. I tweeted this yesterday. Like, why is someone's sexuality just so important? It feels to me like instead of identifying as like a human being that has all these traits and whatever, a lot of times, and Leslie Headland, I think, maybe one of these people, like, her whole identity is just in the fact that she's a lesbian, it feels like to me, if this is the type of stuff she's saying. Like, are you not more than that? You know, I don't identify as a straight guy, right? I identify as me. I identify as a father, a husband, charismatic person, somebody who's outgoing, somebody who makes the party less awkward, maybe, right? Like, I identify as so many different things. The last thing I identify is with who I'm boinking. Like, I will never understand that. Whatever, fine. If that's how people want to be, that's fine. I do not understand that at all. I find that to be so rudimentary and so low bar to, like, make that your big thing, who you sleep with. I find that just so utterly bizarre. But whatever. Do what you want if that's what you want to do. So she implies the show is a lesbian series with this. Okay, she doesn't actually say that. Okay, that changes things a little bit. During an interview last year, Star Wars Celebration, this must be it here, Headland said, "When I saw Frozen as a grown woman, I cried through the entire movie. There was just something about the relationship between the sisters, the, like, de-villainization of the classic kind of fairy tale bad guy, you know, the concept of true love being between two sisters and not a heterosexual relationship. It destroyed me completely." But why does sexuality have to intertwine in that? Like, this kind of reminds me of, there's this notion these days, and I've seen people bringing it up on social media and also in people that I talk to, that there's this thing where, like, there's a sector of people in our society that can't see two girls or two women just have a relationship without sexualizing it. Like, why can't they just have a relationship? Or two guys, right? Two men or two boys, they just can't have a relationship without it being sexual. And I don't know if that's because they have experienced trauma or things have happened to them as kids, or adults have abused them or whatever. And so maybe they don't understand that that's something that can happen. You can just have a normal relationship without bringing sex into it. Maybe they just don't know that. Maybe they just haven't ever experienced that. But for the rest of us in normal world, that's very normal. Like, the girls in Frozen are just, they're just friends, as far as, maybe I'm wrong, man. I don't know, but that's just what it seemed like to me. And I never saw much more of it, and I almost feel like she's inserting herself into that and to making it about her when it's just a story somebody else wrote that has nothing to do with Leslie Headland. But alas, she continued, "I thought, gosh, I would love to make something like this, for lack of a better term, Disney, meaning something that, like, my parents would have allowed me to see when I was younger as a queer person, but I would have been able to understand as a queer person, and I think I would have had a completely different life." These are movies. I would have a completely different life if I had just seen more lesbians in my Disney cartoons. Like, what are you talking about? It's a friggin' movie, man. Like, you're reading way too much into movies. I think I would have had a completely different life if I had seen two chicks sort of seem like they might be lesbians in a Disney movie. Like, that's what you're saying? I just find that really weird. Sorry, man. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys are just like, your movies are changing your life, but a Disney cartoon is not doing that for me. I mean, it never did. I saw all the classics as a kid. They were fun movies, but it wasn't like I was like, needed to be those people or something like that. Like, I just don't. Most of them are animals anyway, but whatever. And so I really was inspired by it, and I was like, God, I would love to make a story like this. Headland then shared she took this idea and pitched it as the Acolyte. And so when I was developing the original idea to pitch to Kennedy, I thought, well, you know, it can't just be that. What does she mean by that? Like, just can't be lesbians? When you're pitching Star Wars, you have to pull from what George was also interested in. Oh, so you're going to at least have a little bit of what George was interested in, eh? That's good. It can't just be like, well, I'm referencing, especially if you're going to set something during the High Republic, end of the High Republic into prequels. You don't have the Skywalker saga. You can't reference a character that was created by George and or Filoni. You have to create your own new character. The Acolyte Race series depicts Sith as underdogs versus the Jedi Institution. And then Musk said reality is actually crazier than the South Park parody. Okay, and I don't need to read the rest of the article. We all know about the South Park parody. It's sort of a joke. Oh, wait, hold on. It's sort of a joke, but it was my elevator pitch to Kathy. I want to take that revisionist version of female villains that you see in a fairy tale media and tell it through that lens. What lens? What is the lesbian lens? Like, this isn't quite as cut and dry as the headline made it seem. When I was a young queer girl, I was just hanging out with Ursula the Sea Witch. Okay, so if this is the same interviews, then maybe okay. Ursula the Sea Witch, as a queer girl growing up, if you don't identify with the heroes and the villains show up and they're all queer coded, you're like, yes, that's me. Why is it all about like who you're sleeping with, Leslie? Why is that such a massive important thing for you to the point where you're trying to insert that into Star Wars? I don't get that. And people, I'm sorry, but you look at Ian McClellan is the perfect example of a gay man who came in and did his job and did it well and wasn't trying to like emphasize his gayness. And I think that's because he's secure in himself. I think Leslie maybe isn't that secure in herself to where she feels like she's got to just constantly be bringing it up. He's secure in himself. In his private life, he's going to do whatever he wants, but he's not going to drag that onto the screen. He's going to play the characters he's going to play, and he's going to be good at it, right? He's a good actor. So I'll never understand these people that it's like that's their whole identity. That's all they are, right? Like, Ian McClellan is gay, but he's also a really good actor. I'm sure he's a nice guy. He's probably a good friend to people. He seems like he's a good dude. I mean, I don't know him, but I'm sure there's many other attributes to his identity than just the fact that he likes dudes. So stupid, man. Oh, wow. As a queer filmmaker, you're going to see some camp, inevitably. But I would say that tonally, our references are darker. I don't know what that means. You're going to see some camp. Let me know in the comments. I have no idea what that even means. Camp is like summer camp, or like I'm having a camp. I'm camping out in a tent. I have no idea what that even means in that context. Lego did a huge study a number of years ago. You can look it up. You can probably find it on Google fairly easily. They spent a lot of money and they researched how girls and boys play with toys. They were trying to think of ways to come out with more sets geared towards girls. And after they figured everything out, they decided to do that line of Girls in the City or whatever it was called. My daughter got a couple of them. Like there was like a clothing store one, and then like a horse thing, and then like it was all, you know, typical kind of stereotypical girly stuff, right? That little girls would like. But what they found in their study was that when boys played with their Legos, so they would give them a set of Legos, and those boys would pretend to be the hero, right? So if they were given a Batman set, or they were given a Spider-Man set, or whatever they were given, Star Wars, doesn't matter, they would say, I'm Luke Skywalker, and then they start playing as Luke Skywalker. So they would do the things that Luke did in the movies, and they would pretend to be him. Whereas the girls would take the sets and insert their own thing that they like to do. So if they gave the girls, say for example, the Luke Skywalker Lego set, they would make Luke do things that they do. So they would make Luke put makeup on. They would make Luke put a dress on. They would make Luke ride horses around. So they take the character and make it about themselves, right? More so, not every time. The study's clear. It's not all of them, but the most of the time the girls would do that. Whereas the boys would do the opposite. They would want to become the hero that they saw and reimagine that hero and what he was doing. And I think this is a classic example of that. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a female director of any type of film, Star Wars or otherwise. But I think in Leslie's case, this is what it sounds like to me, is that she's, instead of saying, I want to write Star Wars characters that fit into Star Wars and have the feel of Star Wars, I'm going to insert my way of playing, what I want to do onto Star Wars characters. And I hate to be mean, but that's a narcissistic way of doing things. Especially with something like a Star Wars IP, which is just massive and has always been boy-centric. Again, that's not to say that girls can't enjoy it. Some do, but it is, generally speaking, a boy-centric brand. It is. It always has been. So has Marvel. They're trying to change that, and they are failing in doing so. All that to say, I don't want that in my Star Wars. I don't want any sexuality, really. I mean, the tension between Han and Leia was okay, I guess, and you know, the little bit of physical affection that we saw was about the maximum I would ever want to see. If there are characters in this show that are queer or whatever she wants, I'm fine with that, but I don't want it to be like the center of the show. I really don't. If it becomes like a thing in the show, like it's a big deal in the show, I'll just tune out. I mean, there's no way. I mean, I have a feeling this show's going to be hard to pay attention to anyway. But if that's the case, it's not going to work. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think there's a lot of people that just don't really want to see that. Listen, if you're into that, have at her. Like there's, you know, like the whole, like I was a kid when Brokeback Mountain came out. I don't want to watch that. If you want to watch that, have at her. I don't really care, but I don't want to watch that. So I didn't watch that because I'm just not interested in seeing that. Again, I don't know why, if you really want like the queer stuff, why don't you just write a different movie or do a different show? Why do you have to take something that is established as what it is and make it into you? Like you're those girls in the Lego study. Like why? Why don't you just, if Leslie really wants to see queer people, why don't you write another movie about it then? You can even write a sci-fi movie about it. But she doesn't want to do that because she knows as well as we all know it's probably going to fail. But she has the Star Wars brand behind this, so she'll get the eyes. And that's what this is about, and it's very kind of narcissistic. It's very disappointing. I think that is, they're totally just pooping on Star Wars and what it's always been for the sake of their own selfish wants and needs, I guess. But again, finally, lastly, I'll just say, I don't understand why who you sleep with is so bloody important. I don't get it. This person constantly brings it up. It's like all she talks about, and I don't get that. Like, go ahead, do what you want. Why do you have to talk about it all the time? Why do you have to put it in the Acolyte? Like, why do you have to make it such a big deal? I don't get it. So anyways, that's my rant. This is super disappointing. If this is what this is going to end up being, this is going to end up being a huge disaster. Oh no. Oh no. Anyways, so you guys let me know in the comment section what you think. I mean, is this like, just let me know what you think, whatever. If you like this content, guys, please like and subscribe. Always helps the channel. Please check out anything else on my channel if you feel so inclined. I got videos about all types of stuff, Star Wars stuff. Anyways, have a good day.